Montana's endless white blanket was bathed in the early morning light, turning golden and pink. The wind gently swayed the branches, and the snow-covered pine trees seemed to bend towards the ground. In this scene of silence, it felt as though nature itself was speaking to the soul. For Megan Whitman, a wildlife photographer, this was not just a home, but a sanctuary that nourished her spirit. Outside, a pair of snow boots sat in front of her log cabin, and inside, thick wool socks were drying by the fireplace, reflecting her simple yet rich life. Smoke rose from the cabin's chimney, signaling warmth and peace within. Megan stood by the window with a steaming cup of coffee in hand, gazing out at the magical scene that unfolded before her. Beside her, her most loyal companion, Koda, lay at her feet. Koda, a Siberian Husky, with ice-blue eyes and a powerful build. He was a true part of the wild. Together, they had trekked through the snow-covered trails, camped under the stars, and explored every corner of Montana's wilderness. They were an inseparable pair, a team, a family. But this winter, everything was about to change. Koda had lost his old spark in recent weeks. Instead of bounding through the snow-covered paths, he curled up in a corner of the cabin and remained motionless for hours. Where he once eagerly wagged his tail at mealtime, now he barely glanced at the food Megan placed in front of him. Megan knew something was wrong with her friend. Although she tried to comfort him, the fear inside her grew with each passing day. One night, she knelt beside him and asked softly, "What's wrong, buddy?" Koda lifted his head slightly, and the dim light in his eyes filled Megan with an overwhelming sense of helplessness. Early the next morning, Megan decided to take Koda to the veterinarian in Kalispell, a small town in Montana. The Jeep's tires crunched through the snow-covered road, and silence filled the vehicle. This silence echoed the worries swirling in Megan's mind. Her eyes were on the road, but her thoughts were with Koda. In the back seat, Koda lay wrapped in blankets, his shallow breaths making Megan's anxiety grow. When they arrived at the clinic, Dr. Julia Reynolds greeted them with a warm smile. Julia was a seasoned veterinarian, whose calm demeanor had earned the trust of both animals and their owners. But when Julia's gaze fell on Koda's listless state, she couldn't hide the concern in her eyes. "We need to run some tests on Koda," Julia said. As Megan carefully placed Koda on the examination table, her hands trembled. Koda's stillness only heightened her worry. As Julia listened to his heartbeat with her stethoscope, the serious expression on her face spoke volumes. Tests were conducted, blood samples were taken, and X-rays were done. While waiting in the examination room, Megan clenched her hands, anxiously wondering what the results would show. Thousands of scenarios ran through her mind. She thought back to Koda's joyful days, running through the snowflakes and camping under the stars. The thought of losing him was unbearable. When Julia returned with the results, she spoke in a serious tone. "Megan, Koda's blood tests show some abnormalities. This could be a sign of a breed-specific condition. It could be a degenerative disease. There are cases where traditional treatments don't work, but let's not give up. There's a specialist in Seattle, Dr. Andrew Collins. He's had success with cases like this." Megan took a deep breath. Her mind raced as she tried to absorb Julia's words. "Seattle," she whispered, closing her eyes and looking at the Koda's still body on the table. The drive to Seattle was more than just a road trip for Megan. It was a journey of hope and fear. As the Jeep slowly rolled along the snowy roads, the silence inside the vehicle seemed to amplify her concerns. In the back seat, wrapped in blankets, Koda seemed to grow quieter with each passing hour. Megan gripped the steering wheel tightly, checking the rearview mirror with each turn to monitor Koda's faint breaths beneath the blankets. The landscape outside reflected Montana's wild beauty. Snow-covered mountains, pine trees standing on a pristine white blanket, and snowy peaks visible in the distance. But Megan barely noticed the beauty. Her mind was consumed with one thought: "I have to save Koda." As the Jeep neared Seattle, The city lights began to pierce the dark night. Megan, pushing aside the clutter in her mind, whispered to Koda, "Hold on, buddy. We're going to save you." Dr. Collins's clinic was a modern medical facility with large windows, high ceilings, and state-of-the-art equipment. Dr. Collins greeted Megan at the door, extending a warm hand. "Koda's condition is serious, but we'll fight this together," he said. His reassuring words sparked a glimmer of hope in Megan's heart. Koda's treatment process became a test of resilience for both Megan and Koda. Dr. Collins's clinic, equipped like a research center, was both scientific and warm, with natural light streaming through the glass walls. Dr. Collins developed a special treatment plan for Koda. This plan included physical therapy sessions, a special diet, and experimental medications. Koda's body is very weak, but with the right support, he has a good chance of recovery, he explained. These words brought a small sense of relief to Megan's weary mind. The early morning routines were physically and emotionally exhausting for Megan. As the clinic staff placed Koda on a treadmill for therapy, Megan silently stood by his side, searching for the spark in his blue eyes that had once been so vibrant. At first, Koda's movements were slow and reluctant. But over time, with each session, small progress was made. Every day, Megan woke up early, carefully measured the medications Dr. Collins prescribed, and prepared Koda's meals with precision. The food was designed to help Koda regain the energy he had lost, with added herbal oils, vitamins, and high-protein meals. Megan often checked on Koda, wrapped in his blanket, listening to his slow breathing. One day, while walking past Dr. Collins's office, Megan overheard a conversation. "The research funds are running out," a voice said. "If we don't find new sponsors, we'll have to stop the trials." For a moment, Megan's hope faltered. The treatment wasn't just critical for Koda, but for all the animals in need. At that moment, Megan made a decision. She had to share Koda's story and get more people involved in supporting the cause. After returning to the clinic, Megan sat down at her computer and began writing Koda's story. She described his strong spirit, his struggles, and his journey toward healing. "This isn't just Koda's story," she wrote. "It's an example of what love and solidarity can achieve." Her post quickly went viral, reaching thousands of people. Koda's photos, showcasing the wild landscapes they had explored together and the tender moments at the clinic, touched the hearts of many. Messages poured in. "We're praying for Koda. How can we support these treatments? I have a husky too, let's help." The fundraising campaign spread rapidly. People began to see Koda's determination and Megan's fight for him as a symbol of hope. Dr. Collins's clinic was revived with the influx of support. New equipment was purchased, research expanded, and Koda's treatment accelerated. For Megan, this campaign was more than financial help. It was a discovery of the power of community. The fact that people supported Koda, even without knowing him, gave her immense motivation. After months of treatment, Koda's old energy began to return. The physical therapy sessions, which had started with slow, hesitant steps, had turned into short runs. Megan celebrated every small step forward, unable to hold back tears as she watched him cling to life again. Finally, when spring arrived, Megan and Koda returned to Montana. One morning, as Megan walked down a trail shaded by pine trees, Koda ran ahead, full of life once more. Snowflakes danced in the air, and Koda's black and white coat shimmered in the light. Megan sat on a rock watching him and whispered, "We did it, buddy. We're back." One morning when Megan opened her mailbox, she found a letter from Dr. Collins. The letter explained that the treatment methods used for Koda had become standard practice, now being used to help animals around the world. Megan sat on her porch, Koda curled up at her feet, resting his head on her lap. Looking into his blue eyes, she smiled. "It's because of you," she said, gently placing her hands on his head. This story was not just about survival. It was a testament to love, determination, and what people can achieve when they come together.